Today we have a 2016 Ford Escape with a 2-liter engine, and we're going to be doing a oil and filter change. Before we start this job and doing this oil change and filter change, we want to make sure that the engine oil is hot. So if it's not, jump in the car, run it around the block 2 or 3 times to get the engine oil hot, and then come back in, then we'll be ready to start the job. Now the first thing I've done is on the right hand side of the car, I have it jacked up and I have a jack stand, as you see. As you can see, this is where I have the jack stand across this metal strut that's coming across, and if you look right over here, you can see this is where I have the jack. It's right here on the pinch wheel here, so it's pretty sturdy. Okay, for this job we're going to need a ratchet. This is a 15 millimeter 6-point socket. This will be to remove the oil drain plug that's in the oil pan. Now there's also a splash shield cover underneath, covering up the oil filter and also the oil drain plug. So we have to remove this here shield underneath. For that we will need a 7 millimeter socket, and we also need a T30 bit. So we're going to go underneath the car, and I'll point out some of these and we'll start removing these fasteners. Now here's a splash shield cover that's underneath the engine. Now as an example, here's a T30 bolt, here's a T30 bolt, there's a T30 bolt, and then there's going to be 7 millimeter bolts on the side. So it's just an obvious, just look over them and you can just remove these fasteners. So I'm not going to show you that, so we're just going to remove these here fasteners, and then I'll catch you guys in the next shot when we start taking this here splash shield down. Now once you get all the fasteners out, just take the cover and just push it on outside. Okay, now we're going to remove the cap here so that the oil can drain a little bit easier, to allow air to come down in there. So I'm just going to put the cap right there. Here's our drain plug for the oil. As I mentioned, 15 millimeter socket. Take the plug out, have your suitable container, and go ahead and let the oil drain out. I shot out a little further than I thought. Now once the oil is drained, go ahead and put the drain plug back in and secure it and tighten it up. That's a good snug. Oil filter is right up here, right behind the cooling fan in front of the radiator, slightly over to the right hand side of the car. So let's get that one loosened up. Get our oil pan there, loosen it up, and let it come on down. Now when you take your oil filter off, make sure that you don't have the O-ring still stuck up here. And then if you have any dirt or debris hanging around on the side, just go ahead and get your lint-free rag and just kind of wipe that off. So I'm just going to go around the flange and just kind of wipe it down a little bit. Look at it. Looks pretty good to me. And so now let's get our oil filter ready. Oil filter for this car that I'm going to be using is made by Napa Gold Filter. It's a 1348. It's a Wix filter. So Wix makes these filters here. It'll filter down to 21 microns, so I like it pretty good. Now, we're going to take the filter. Going to take it out. Now get your favorite oil that you like. For this here car, I like to use Valvoline Full Synthetic. The viscosity for this engine is 5W30, and the oil capacity is 5.7 quarts. Now, what we're going to try to do here, since this here filter is pretty much vertical, I'm going to fill this up, put some oil in it, so it already has some oil in it when the engine starts. So this way it won't be kind of pooling air when this thing first starts up. So we're going to kind of put some oil in this thing here. Now when you fill it up, you'll see that if you come to the top, stop, it'll settle down, it'll get absorbed into the filter medium, and then you come back and you fill a little bit more up in there. Okay? And it doesn't have to be totally full. Now looking down in there, well, in fact I'd give it a little bit more. It looks like it's about probably halfway. There we go. And that should be good enough. Now we're going to take this here. We're going to kind of get some oil across that gasket there. Now let's go back underneath. So I'm just screwing it back on by hand till it seats. And there it is. I'm going to get a rag, kind of dry it down a little bit, get this excess oil off of the casing on this oil filter. And then we're going to turn it 1/2 to 3/4 turns after it seats. So, and that should do it. As I mentioned, use your favorite oil, whatever you like. As I mentioned on the capacity, it's 5.7 quarts, and that includes the filter. Now I've already marked on the side of this here second container to where I think the measurement should be. It should probably be about right there. That'd be close enough for us to get started when we crank it up, and we'll do another check. We're going to crank up the engine, and we're going to let it run for about a minute or so we can check for leaks before we put the cover back on. What I'm doing right now is I'm looking over the oil filter, make sure it's not leaking, and I'm looking back over the oil drain plug, make sure everything looks fine. Everything looks good, so I don't see any leaks. By the way, wipe off any excess oil with a rag around the oil drain plug and around the oil filter. Here's that cover so you can see it, that splash cover that goes underneath the engine. Here is our fasteners. Remember, they're 7mm sockets. Take care of the bolt heads there. And also you're going to have the T30s here. So we're going to be putting that back on. So I don't think you need to see how to put this cover back on. So after I get it back on, then we'll catch you back in the next shot. Alright, so jack it up a little bit to get the jack stand up. Pull it out. Loosen the jack. Let the car come on down. Okay, we're going to crank the car back up. We're going to let it run for a few seconds. Let's get the oil circulated. Remember now it's on level ground. And now we turn it off. We'll let it sit for 2 or 3 minutes. We'll allow the oil to drain back to the oil pan, and then we'll check our level, see what we got. Let's go ahead and check our oil here now. So when you pull it out, go ahead and just wipe it off. Stick it back down, fully insert it, bring it back out, and let's take a look and see what we got. And if you look right there, where that hole is, that hole right there signifies maximum. So we're right at it. This hole down on the bottom is your minimum. So anywhere between the minimum and full should be good. But while you're changing oil, just well put it up here at the full mark, which is that hole right there where my finger is at. Now once you get your oil level correct, everything looks good there. Just kind of wipe down your covers, anything where you see any oil. The idea is that you want to make it look like you was never here. Okay, so we got one more thing to do. Let's go ahead and do an oil reset on this, oil life reset. All right, now we're going to reset the oil life on this here oil. So what we want to do first is, this has a start-stop technology. You know, it's got the push button to start it. So if you foot off the brake, press it a couple of seconds, put it in the on mode. Now simultaneously press the brake pedal and the accelerator pedal same time. Okay. Now it has an OK message, so I'm going to clear that out. Now you said oil reset is in progress. Continue holding your foot, your brake and your accelerator. Continue holding it. Takes about 25 seconds. And after that time's out, we should see that it's oil is reset, oil life is reset, and then we can continue on with life. And there we go. Oil reset is complete. Take our feet off of the pedals, and then we can just hit our button over here one time, turn it off, and we're done. Okay guys, I got to move on to a 2001 Ford Escape. Going to do an oil and filter change on that. Probably not going to film it, but meanwhile, at least now you know how to do it for the 2016 Ford Escape 2-liter engine. So we'll see you guys in the next one, and have a good one.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.